let's make a start. Can we, Marco? Okay, ready to go. Thanks, guys, for being here. Tonight is another PugliaTechs night. PugliaTechs today has some special partners. One is the location partner, which is Aeroporti di Puglia. Unfortunately, we don't have someone to talk about that, but we all know that, you know, Aeroporto di Puglia, in particular Aeroporto di Bari, is becoming a global hub to attract not only tourists, but also talent and companies, entrepreneurs, investors. And also our media partners tonight is Millionaire, who wrote an article about PugliaTechs recently. He's going to be a strategic partner for us. So we want to, starting from the key point that PugliaTechs is about tech and business. So that's actually something very interesting to add in our strategic partners group. So just a quick recap about PugliaTechs. First of all, I'm one of the community builders of the group. Is a no-profit association. The goal again is to really combine tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, founders, investors. Everybody has a connection with Puglia, with the region. It might live or work abroad, but somehow is connected to our region. What's the mission? Again, knowledge sharing, networking, and so on events, both online and in person. The vision is really about being to have a proper renaissance, in a way, for Puglia. Why the key aspects are the global perspective, the Puglia roots, because these days it's clear that there is a big opportunity for local hubs to serve potentially the big hubs like Silicon Valley, London, or Asian or Middle East hubs. But at the same time, obviously, we want to stress our Puglia DNA. So this is one of the key aspects for the community we are building. And the second, of course, is local talent. So we want to have, you know, a talent that has opportunity to grow, opportunity to potentially create startups, and network with other people from the same field. How we structure the talk? So tonight is going to be a bit busy. It's not just the usual tech tracks and business tracks. So we always try to keep a balance between a technical talk and a business talk. Tonight we're going to have association that represent the local communities. We're going to have startups and incubators involved as well in Puglia. How we consider this effort? I moved to Bari a year and a half ago, and we realized with other people that there is too much fragmentation. Local communities in Bari, local communities in Lecce, developer communities, they don't talk to other developer communities. The idea for us is to really create a federated approach where everyone has his own DNA and somehow is connected to a layer that could really make the communication faster. So communities, obviously our first goal. The second is startup and enablers, incubators, whoever is involved in the business side. Institutions, of course. We know that Regione Puglia is very involved in making, you know, the business success story. And investors. Now, this is maybe the missing piece because I've been 10 years in London in financial institution. I know that the money comes from the big hubs. US, UK, Middle East, Asia. So the idea is not just to focus on local, the usual suspect, you know, Cassa Depositi and so on, but really to bring foreign investors in the region. Without further ado, I give the stage to Francesco. Francesco is a freelance fractional CTO for many organizations, and tonight is going to be our business track talk. And he's going to make the entire coding and business combination a smooth experience that everybody could understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Marco. All there we go. So, 25 minutes. All right, I'll try to be right on time. All right, so my name is Francesco Lorenzi. I've been in tech for around maybe 20 years. So I started building and writing code when I was 12. Now I'm like 30-ish. And I come from 10 years of running a software consultancy business and striking a balance between working with startups and working with enterprises and seeing how things have changed. I think this last decades has really made us see a change in how each of these actors really have different needs. So this is the goal of today's session, looking at what really matters today when it comes to creating value and running a business or building a product, and just going straight there, which is why we thought of a business track for this, although there might be some tech in our talk. So let's go straight to it. So when we talk about building a product or starting a business, we always hear about MVP and MVE, so minimum viable product or minimum viable experience, so making sure that the client actually signs up. But more and more, we're seeing a difference in the needs when eyes are on the business. And that's the end-to-end experience, which is why I found this term. I'm not a big fan of new terms. We already have a lot of acronyms, but I found this article on Medium that speaks about a minimum automated concept. What does it mean? It means that, according to the writer, the concept of a business that stands on its own derives from a business that is able to be profitable in a sustainable, well-structured way with minimum effort to make it run, both from operational efficiency and also the end-to-end marketing and sales life cycle. So if that's what drives, as we can see here, drives investors, well, let's say crazy, but happy about an idea versus an idea on paper, this means that when we are building something, we probably need to think about what really matters. Is it a specific framework? Is it a specific tech stack? Or what really makes a difference when building a software-based business? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So obviously, the typical question is, what about low code, no code, or a lot of code? I come from around, let's say, that's decade of entrepreneurial experience when I was talking about maybe building software by basing it upon something, I was oftentimes frowned upon, or the need was to build something custom just for me because I really need it and I don't want anyone to have anything similar to me. But over time, we've seen that this is not always the case. We're seeing larger enterprises building software for themselves and for the industry by leveraging no code. So code is no longer the point. The code is also not necessarily something that makes a particular business shine. We're hearing more and more companies talking about using AI to, that's very unfortunate, replacing engineering resources. That's not the way, but this also tells us that the value is a much more complex topic when we come to that. So that's why I wanted to start with looking at, okay, what should we be picking when we want to find our stack? And as we can see here in the slide, I compiled a small table that tells us what to pick in specific needs. So in short, the takeaway I'd like to look at is, are we looking at prototyping for a small product, maybe a mini SaaS that we want to test in the market? Then I strongly advise going with no code, trying to experiment with minimum effort, and probably seeing if it makes sense to scale. But maybe at some point, we find out that the product needs to be more towards deeper complexity, but we're still constrained with time and budget. So in that case, striking a balance, looking at low code might be the solution. In other cases, we found out from the beginning that we're going to definitely have issues if we box ourselves into any sort of vendor lock-in with reduced amount of coding. So we definitely want to go straight with full code or custom coding. So when it comes to prototyping, I wanted to start with this concept of looking at shipping fast and testing the market immediately so we can then learn from it and iterate. So based on what we were talking before, the main point, in my opinion, is decoupling the different pieces so that we can iterate, but not having to rebuild the software every few months. So when we talk about low code or no code, I'm not referring to learning and building from scratch. It will probably be as expensive as doing it the right way from the get-go. So for this reason, the prototypation and the experimentation comes with experimenting specific tools. So when we talk about embedding generative AI, embedding RAG, building agents in a business, the goal around this point is trying to see how we can productize this business need. And do we really need to build an entire AI framework from scratch? Probably not. There are ways to test the market, test the product, iterate on the product without huge efforts, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And here, there's this wording that I found from one of the open source tools I will be talking about today, which is fair code. So it's a fair amount of code, I would say. And this is, for example, N8N. So let's start looking a bit more in depth. When we mentioned looking at the concerns, separating the concerns and deciding the right tool, this is what I'm discussing today. So if we separate an application, let's say it's made up of a front end, back end, then there'll probably be a mobile app at some point, there'll be some background automations, because sometimes the core value of application is not what runs in the front end, it's actually what runs behind the scenes, so the background operations are quite important. And then the AI stack when we want to speak to large language models. So here, as we can see, the goal is trying to see for each of these different layers, different concerns, when does it make sense to go low code, or when does it make sense to go custom? We can look at all different intersections. If we need to build an application as a typical ERP, probably makes sense to go low code both for front end and back end. But maybe in other cases, the back end is more complex, so let's start flexible from the beginning and look at the leading framework in the best language that your team speaks. But then the front end is quite standard, so why not empower our product designers to build the front end themselves, so we work in parallel. At the same time, background tasks. So do we need to experiment a bit of AI? Then let's maybe use N8N, which allows you to work with LangGraph without, I would say, maybe knowing too much about how a specific agentic framework works. Or maybe you want to go complex, you can actually go with serverless function. Same would go with mobile and AI stack. So the main takeaway on this point is looking at flexibility on the different layers, different separations of concerns, and picking the right tool that makes sense today, but at the same time could make sense in a year. So the idea of make decisions you won't regret in a year is around the point, okay, let's ship fast, but let's try not to have the ship sink and start over. So that separation will help. When it comes to AI stack, I think my main suggestion is to avoid vendor lock-in, as we saw in the previous slide, and making sure that we are not bound to specific APIs. One of the biggest failures for business is having a business shut down when one of the API services goes down, and OpenAI is an API service. So trying to look at being resilient when the moving parts beyond your control are down for a technical issue, a billing issue, terms of service breach. So having a fallback or looking at open source solutions for the best part will allow you to have lesser single point of failures which are not in your direct control. Okay, so we are PugliaTechs. We all come from a tech background. So, okay, but what if it doesn't matter low code, I want to write code? All right, so we're going to have to jump into this. So when it comes to the full code part of it, there's a few options we can see here. Still, the goal is to not rebuilding what doesn't make sense to rebuild. So when we look at needing to build signups, membership, onboarding processes, especially the default ones, payment integrations, does it really make sense to integrate those from scratch or build them from scratch? In my opinion, it's much better to leverage boilerplates, starter kits for SaaS applications that allow you to start with strong foundations, probably already quite stable and used in the market, where they probably are more secure than our homemade code because they are tested. There's sometimes even open source campaigns to keep them tested and pen tested, so you can build upon a very strong set of foundations. And here I'm listing some of tools that can be both services. We can here see, for example, Lemon Squeeze and Stripe for payment integration and the payment flow, Superbase or Firebase, Auth0 for authentication, but also OneSignal. If you plan on integrating mobile applications, and having push notifications or flows related to marketing campaigns via email, push notification, and SMS, it probably doesn't make sense to integrate APN for Apple and Google push notifications with manual integration with their APIs. You can look into a middleware that will handle that for you, and you'll be able to build on top of it. So this is a brief look on the nuts recreation and innovation by building what really drives value, which is the value proposition of your business. Definitely, when we look at building codes, we are called to see how we can be efficient, and generative AI comes to help here. With this, I'm always referring to what our co-founder and co-community builder Marco mentions. Let's see generative AI when it comes to writing code as a junior developer that we need to coach and handhold. Let's not imagine that it can build code by itself, completely unsupervised, but it definitely can help us in that sense. So, quick takeaways on this point. There's different tools that are in the space that allow us to turn ideas, front-end and back-end, into code, especially with particular libraries that we can use. We can automate testing, fixing bugs, and also when it comes to development tools, I'm a strong advocate of embedding these tools directly into our IDE. A lot of us use directly ChatGPT, but at the same time, using those embedded will definitely help automate the process and not having to do context switching. When it comes to front-end and back-end, decoupling them from the get-go allows us to pick the right tool and allow us to build just two pieces in parallel. Here I'm listing some of the leading stacks and front ends that you can pick from according to your team and or your own set of expertise. The idea is independent deployments, being able to debug the two pieces in parallel, and being able to scale flexibly on one side, either front end or back end, without being strongly tied by each of the two pieces. Here you can see on the tech side, definitely are very well known to the closer techs. Instead of necessarily starting from UX designs in specific types of prototyping, why not actually work with well-known libraries and frameworks and components that allow us to build pieces of what we already know works in the market, it's tested, and it's proven to give a seamless user experience to the end customer, which leads in faster prototyping, reducing manual effort, and being faster in shipping and learning from the testing in the market and iterating. When it comes to unnecessary complexity, I think more and more we hear about moving towards microservices, but is it always really needed? When it comes to shipping faster and having fewer variables, or fewer things that could break, fewer complexities in deployments and debugging, my personal recommendation is to lean towards a monolithic approach to start with, and maybe building on top of that when needed and as needed. This, in the end, will simplify the overall development and testing phase and deployment itself. And also will probably end up being cheaper when it comes to maintaining this infrastructure. When we're building software, looking at an API-first approach, in my opinion, is important for future outlook of the business. Building API first comes handy both when it comes to building the foundation that is decoupled from front end, as we saw before, but also from a pure business perspective. If we imagine that we are building for our future mobile application, or we're building for our future enterprise clients, we already find ourselves with an API that at some point we can give to an enterprise lead for testing, and at some point we can turn our SaaS into a multi-thousand euros per month MRR, because we are branching out of our SMB grades offering to an enterprise grade offering. That's because we've always had the API in mind. Of course, there will be some nuances on how to make that scalable, but we are looking at this from the get-go instead of strongly coupled front-end and back-ends. And this also allows us to branch out into the mobile side of things much faster than strongly coupled architectures. Another point when it comes to optimizing the overall life cycle from the get-go, my recommendation is to look into DevOps from the get-go. It is not uncommon to find businesses that run their business out of a virtual private server or a dedicated server, a bare metal server where everything runs there, because it might sound cheaper than going with platform as a service or maybe an infrastructure as a service. But do creators, do builders, do developers want to actually maintain a Linux server or patch that server, harden it? Maybe it makes more sense to build code and ship new features. So moving that out of the equation and having closer look into the DevOps cycle instead of system administration would definitely free up time from smaller businesses that won't need to have a dedicated resource for that. And finally, when it comes to being ready to go mobile, as we discussed before, having an API-first approach allows you to quickly branch out into the mobile side. Even here, when it comes to mobile, my recommendation is to lean towards frameworks like, for instance, React Native that can also easily couple with cloud building and cloud deployment tools like Expo that allows you to better manage the life cycle of releases and deployments out to app stores without the need of having a larger set of tools and devices to keep that in track. So this, coupled with an API-first approach, will make the transition over to mobile apps of your SaaS much faster than if this was to be built from scratch. So probably right on time, surprisingly. When it comes to a quick recap, my recommendation is to really look into understanding what really drives value, starting from using boilerplates, using no-code, low-code to drive what will sell today or what will attract your investors in the longer run. When possible, using AI tools to fast-track your work, but not really listen to it end-to-end. And finally, this will drive what we call, or in this case, that particular wording calls, a minimum automated concept that runs on its own and is scalable in the future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Francesco, for the presentation. Very, very interesting. Hopefully we start new businesses after this session. Can we check if we have some questions from the live side of YouTube? No? Okay. Do we have some questions in the room? We have just space for a couple of questions. No? Okay. So let's go to the next one. We move to completely different topic. We have Giovanni here tonight talking about drones. And unfortunately, Nunzio is not here, so he's going to take the stage for the entire session. 25 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So I want to share with you a story that starts not a long time ago. That is PugliaTechs, with the X that is indeed a drone. And you may see here a sneak peek, a spoiler of our test that we did in such a short time. But let's dive into the story right now, if I get the pointer okay. So why PugliaTechs? Why it all started? Because I think that it's great to know the necessity behind this. So we are in a university, as you might have guessed, at Politecnico University of Bari. Engineering, telecommunications, computer science, and so on. So lots of great stuff that we start to study even from the bachelor's degree. The problem is that there is the need from the start, the excitement of new students, of new generation, to master complex and next generation systems. Why so? Because they are so well advertised. If we think about generative AI, drones, telecommunication systems of next generation, even multi-gigabit per second systems, they want to grasp the idea behind all these technologies. The problem is that they are very complex. And so to meet the novel student that is just starting to study the basics of calculus and mathematics, we want to match their excitement with an open and exciting environment, a culture of students that are able to access all the facilities of the university, so that when they grow up, they learn at the same time to apply their knowledge and be great engineers. So that's why PugliaTechs started as a special interest group of students, but focused particularly on drones. So what kickstarted everything was, above me and Nunzio, unfortunately he's not here, was also this challenge. This is a major inter-university competition that is called the Drone Contest, and is sponsored by Leonardo Company, that is investing a lot in university research for this kind of activities to learn more about drones. They are so complex systems because they are like aircrafts, okay? They are aircrafts, but in miniature models, and at the same time with so low-cost equipment that even with an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi, so we talk about very cheap embedded computers, we're able to build up these great systems that they are even able to navigate by themselves. The problem is that if you see this drone flying in this small, let's call it a city, made of plywoods, well, it's quite a challenge because lots of software of different kind of systems, even the telecommunication infrastructure, well, for students from bachelor's degree, it's something that it's indeed something difficult to grasp on, and so he tries to learn everything, tries to break things, to grow up both in its theoretical knowledge, but also in its applied skills. So, given this inter-university challenge, we had 1 year of time to build from scratch a UAV, but also a ground rover, and be able to navigate throughout this 3D miniature city to spot some, they call it the Aruco codes. They are just like QR codes, but they are pretty much the same, graphically speaking. And so we had only a year to also catch up the other universities, because the drone contest is quite experienced, is quite old as a context, so we had a 3-year gap to overcome to catch up with the other universities that started earlier, way earlier. We talk about Turin, Milan, Rome, Bologna, and so on. So we were 2 people, like me and Nunzio, indeed, and at the same time, we had the fortune to be in different laboratories. I was quite young. I was a thesis student at a laboratory in telecommunication engineering, and Nunzio was in control engineering, and that was the key, because, well, speaking about the infrastructure, we had access to these labs. The problem was the people. How do we find them? How do we inspire our other colleagues to do this kind of challenge? So that was the difficult part, but after a year, I am quite excited to get all these faces together in this slide. These are the core people of our group. More other people have joined us throughout this year. And we also achieved other goals related to enrich the curriculum of young engineers, all inside the university, all inside in a safe environment, without making the student escape to north of Italy, or make the student escape to from a young age to a consulting company. So all inside the university, the student is able to build up a quite interesting curriculum with a cutting-edge technology. For myself, I could think about experience with counter-drone systems, which is quite the opposite from what we have started working on, but also experimental wireless communication system, even above the 5G technology. And from Nunzio, I'm quite thrilled to say the same, but more related to robotics with AI-driven drones and collaborative platforms, because of course we have learned about how to make a drone and the ground rover collaborate and navigate safely inside that small town. So it was entirely an experiment. It was quite a dream to build up this community from the start. We went think, but because the problem is that before PugliaTechs, we had all these type of students which were quite young, from a bachelor's degree, without access to the labs because they had to do the basic sciences of calculus, geometry, even the initial courses in computer science, and they had no practical experience apart from earlier curriculum or earlier interests of the student per se. But fortunately, now, this is post-PugliaTechs, so you may notice how we communicate inside our community, because we have to look forward the next generation, of course. As post-PugliaTechs, the student is able, from early stage of their curriculum, to access to these laboratories, to access cutting-edge technology and hardware, and do lots of practical activities, even design 3D parts from scratch, because we had the pleasure to design the drones and the ground rover, even the mechanical parts, and also learn more about all the communication, electronics, and software stack behind them. And so, yeah, this is quite an excerpt of an entire year. Unfortunately, very small video, very small scratches of all we did together in such a short time, because a year to build up these systems from scratch was quite a challenge. It was like a marathon indeed. And at the same time, what really inspired us and inspired the community to build up by its own was that we posed this diagram to the new students. And the students were quite fascinated by it, because by accessing our community, by being part of our group, and at the same time participate in these kind of challenges, they were able to learn a little bit of all of these disciplines, but at the same time also grow up a specialization, their own interest in a certain area. That's why also I'm quite proud to say that when the bachelor student grow up, they got the degree, fortunately they chosen up to pursue the master's degree, but at the same time even customize their curricula at the master's degree to choose the particular courses to get a very unique specialization, a very unique curriculum. And I think this is quite important, because when a student learns to be different from the others, he tries to also learn how to sell himself to the working community, and so also look forward to his working future. Because at the end of the day, that's all the goal, to use the university to create a professional profile that is quite unique and interesting. So the key milestones that we have achieved so far throughout this year was to build up a UAV and UGV from scratch, but also get this nice view in Polina and Mare, or legal, okay? We also grow up from 2 people to 12 core people from all ages, from the bachelor's degree to the PhDs, and at the same time also get other supporters that are people that, well, they tend to spend too much time studying, of course, but they also, in their free time, to get their hands on and help us in diving into all these endeavor. Okay, a little bit of technical specifications, because at the end of the day, this is a tech talk. So what we have here is that the challenge was to navigate throughout this little city in plywoods and so on. Even mobile obstacles that the jury would change their position from time to time. So we have to build a very dynamical navigation system of these robots. These were the two robots. We call it, one is Ciotto, the other is Uranus, and I don't pronounce it in English. We also had the pleasure to test new communication infrastructure based on the latest Wi-Fi 6 to reach as much as possible the theoretical limit of 1 gigabit per second of throughput. And at the same time, because we wanted to share data between these two robots, we also wanted the debug information of these two robots about, for instance, how they build up the spatial reconstruction of this small city between them. How is correct the transposition of their reference system to a global reference system? So we had time also to think about a ground control center where all this information is conveyed and it is reconstructed even on an iPad. And so it was quite interesting to get everything up. Okay. So for the drone, just give you details of the drone. We have dimensioned all by ourselves. Of course, some little things like the rotors could not be done from scratch, so we have chosen someone sufficiently powerful to be able to fly a drone of 4 kilos. We also have designed the Wi-Fi infrastructure is quite from the electronics is, of course, both ready, off the shelf, but the frequencies, the optimization, even the latency were all optimized for the particular hardware on board the drone and the ground control center and the ground rover to achieve what I could say a sub-millisecond latency. Because when we talk about collaborative system, real-time information sharing of this data size, we talk about 3D mapping of both the drone and the ground rover are really important. And so here the communication optimization was quite critical. And I would say that here I would say proudly that from the communication standpoint, we are quite the leader in this regard with respect to other universities in Italy. As part of the control system, it was this was the theoretical diagram that a bachelor degree student would study, but of course this was entirely replaced with something off the shelf. So to make the drone able to fly, we tuned it up to fly it autonomously, but at the same day also extend the basic flight controller unit with other hardware and go through the integration hell, we call it, to be able to integrate all the software stack, even higher level spatial reconstruction systems and software to work with the low level computers that are here illustrated. Indeed, we used both mainly as speaking for the hardware, the PixOak as a flight controller unit, and then chosen an NVIDIA Jetson to as a higher level system to bring up all the containers in a Docker fashion, in a container fashion, but also be able to use the NVIDIA CUDA acceleration to make things faster with respect to the spatial reconstruction, 3D mapping. Okay, so yeah, from this drone, practically, we achieved what is the fully automated drone that is even able to be controlled by some monkeys. as part of the companion computer, we designed this software stack from scratch. These were the software from scratch that we designed and implemented, like the perception and mapping, path planning algorithm, even the mission control to coordinate the task of exploring and be able to synchronize the data between the drone and the ground rover. Even the marker detection, as earlier, as I said about the Aruco detection and the QR code indeed, and also be able to fuse the maps together, the map of the drone and the map of the ground rover, and also other fundamental things like logging. In this regard, it was quite important to use a software, a framework that is quite well renowned for its performance in robotics, that is a robots operating system. So it was, all our software was entirely based on a C++ ROS2 framework. And that's just a sneak peek of our little achievements of all our algorithms. As you may notice, it's quite fluid in its regard, so we're happy for achieving a high performance of the system. And I think that's all for us. Was quite excited to share this story. So as you may know, if you are interested about our community, these are the contacts. I'm Giovanni Grieco. I'm a freelance researcher as a service because I finished my PhD, so now I'm as a service to do research and innovation, especially related to counter-drone systems. And at the same time, Nunzio is finishing his PhD, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have some questions from the YouTube channel? Okay. Do you have a question?
Where are you guys at in terms of commercialization or sales of this technology? Because I'm not that technical, so I couldn't really follow the technical part that well, but interested overall in the topic.
Yeah, so the goal of this community is the community per se. So what we have thought of was to build up a team of people that were able to build their own curricula. So behind the challenge, behind building the system was no business goal at all. Was only the curiosity of getting our hands dirty with this cutting edge technology.
Not yet.
Yeah. So no business yet.
Yeah. So, some other questions? Yeah.
I saw that your transmission protocol is based on the same Wi-Fi frequency, 5.4 gigahertz. I remember well, yeah. How do you manage the interferences issues? And why don't you develop your own protocol, transmission protocol, especially for navigating in the cities in which there are many antennas, Wi-Fi antennas, and I know for experience, because I have a drone, that it's very dangerous to fly in the city because I always can lose control and lose my drone. Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite an interesting question because we work a lot behind these communication protocols because even apart from this drone, we also have to deal with FPV drones for events, to do races. Every time that we did something was behind an assumption of be able to fly the drone, to control the drone remotely in a 20 by 20 meters miniature city of plywood. So it was not a problem to use out of the box 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi gigahertz because thanks to the Wi-Fi 6 standard, we were able to choose 160 megahertz bandwidth. The caveat was to have the DFS, so we have to ensure that there were no weather stations operating in that area, and at the same time other universities were not in our bands. But personally, because I tuned up the system, I tuned up a system, a low-level firmware controller, able to scan the entire spectrum, be able to find the right spot in that moment, in that period of time, so to choose the channels and be able to provide 160 megahertz bandwidth. Real-world test, we were able to achieve quite sub-milliseconds latency with very low jitter of 1-2 milliseconds, so pretty much high performances, and the real data 800 megabits per second of throughput. So it was quite near the, not so near, but quite near and sufficient for these systems to communicate and synchronize all the data behind the point clouds, the 3D mapping, and so on.
Okay, we don't have. Okay, let's go for the last question.
Have you tried to work with group of drones or not yet? Try to do some research. How do they communicate? To give them some tasks to see how in parallel they can work together.
That is something that is. I believe Nunzio is working on in his PhD. So I think that right now it's something that is still in the theoretical study for us. And then we welcome possibilities, opportunities to be able to, for the students to work with multiple drones. Right now, not yet. Even because all these endeavor was just in a year. So we are planning for future developments and evolutions in this regard.
No, the task is already solved, so there are some kind of solutions. I just
well,
wanted to ask if you already solved them, tried them, or not yet. So is your answer not yet, and you know what to try, because there are a lot of solutions?
In our community, not yet. Okay, but if you think about swarming in terms of UAV collaborating with a ground rover, so that is just the start of two robots collaborating between one another. So in basic terms, we are already evolving in that direction, but we are doing it step by step. Well, right now we have a drone that is able to collaborate and navigate autonomously with a ground rover. So the ground rover is providing all its data, the spatial reconstruction to the drone, so the drone is able to even know and navigate the area that were not explored yet by the drone by itself, because the ground rover is helping it. But that is the state of the art for us right now, what we have studied and implemented. Of course, your idea is of a great inspiration for the upcoming future, of course. But it's not something that we have implemented yet.
Okay, thanks. I think you can follow. Do you hear me? Yes. I think you can follow up later, and you can discuss about this. All right. So now, thanks very much, Giovanni, for the presentation. We have a very fast batch of startups. They're gonna pitch 2 minutes slot each, plus a couple of questions. So let's start maybe with Calendbook. We have one of the founders here and the community builder of PugliaTechs as well. So I leave the stage to you, Vincenzo.
Perfect. I think I might stay here so I can control, or do we have the clicker? No? Okay, perfect. By the way, this was a wonderful idea. I forget by who, and we said, okay, let's start ourselves also with some of the pitches. So Calendbook is an affordable way to basically get your appointment bookings done. So the problem is that many times people ask you, when are you free for a call? And there's a lot of emails going on, and it just takes time, right? So how does that work? You basically identify when you're free, during what days, what hours, You share your links via email or whatever, WhatsApp, and people book you in just a few steps. We got about over 7,000 people, and I summed up all over the world, mostly professional, small and medium businesses, and globally. US and India are our biggest markets. The market size is actually going to grow big time, almost, as you can see, 3 times in the next 7 years to 1.2 billion in 2030. And as I said, we are over 7,000 users right now. And obviously we're a SaaS, so we're freemium, but we also have the lowest price in the industry, starting at $2 per month when paid yearly. Our top competitor Calendly charges $10, so we're 5 times cheaper. And so we want to be the most affordable solution, and as well the solution that helps you monetize the fastest, the cheapest, because we have a free Stripe integration. Again, if you go on Calendly, it costs you $10 a month to just have that Stripe integration. We won a small grant by Puglia region, this PIN, you probably know about it, but then we're just in the final stages of Tecnonidi, and also we're looking to do a crowdfunding campaign. We're talking to Mama Crowd and a few other platforms as well in the States. Some of the roadmap, it's really a lot of integrations, as you can see, Wix, Shopify, HubSpot, etc., and you know, mobile apps, etc. So really a lot of integrations, plus what we're looking at is adding more way to find new leads, because a lot of our users, they go in and they don't have any leads that book their calendar. So we can actually help them get new leads, plus with AI, help them contact these leads as well. In terms of our team, I spent almost a decade in California and 7 years at Nokia and Microsoft. And I found these 2 amazing guys also from my town, from Cerignola. And we've been building it in the last few years. And so that's it, actually. So
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Just one question. Are you all guys based in Puglia, or you are spread out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm back in Puglia after 20 years abroad, and another guy is also in Puglia, and then another guy is actually spending time in the Netherlands, which is good. He's been improving his English and becoming more, let's say, worldwide and global. But
Okay.
you know, business is right now really, you know, based in Puglia. So right now we're as a team, we're
Okay.
focused here on Puglia.
So you have the same themes that we always say, that you know, we are global but local in a way.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you very much, Vincenzo.
Thank you, guys.
So we have the next one, which is Raise. Okay, no Stefania, but we have someone else, Mario, that is going to talk about the firm. The stage is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Mario Caruso. Today I'm going to discuss about this university spin-off, which is RAISE, or Research and Innovation for Society and Environment. This startup was founded by Professor Bellotti, who is the headmaster of physics department, and his colleagues. We have a great expertise in different kinds of scientific sectors. This group published a lot, more or less 1,000 scientific papers, and we want to commercialize these ideas, these expertises. So we are able to do sentiment analysis, okay, computer vision, genomics, One Health applications. We are also involved in Earth observation, rankings, sales prediction, a lot. So if you want to collaborate with us, these are our contacts. Maybe you can ask us later. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. Maybe just 2 questions. How big is the team now?
About 10 people.
Okay, and you are all in Bari, and
Yeah.
Okay.
Physics department.
All physics. But do you have some people that still work in university, or all outside?
Some people are working with the university and other none.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So the next one is Open Tech. Please, Alfredo, the stage is yours. 1 second.
Good evening
Please.
to all. We started from a little blog because on the blockchain field and crypto to tell people about this technology, because in Italy we lack something knowledge about this technology. And from that blog we started our startup that we went well, and last year we rejected an acquisition of over 600,000 euro from fashion company, and with our little team, I'm the CTO of OpenTech, and with me there is Antonella, that she also built another startup in the oil field, and we made this little startup from different sector, because our sector are evolved from the NFTs, because we are knowledge on the digitalization of art in NFTs. We also build some video game also in the blockchain. In this case, we made the first Game Boy NFT blockchain in the world. And recently, we also worked in the computer vision, and we launched TrustWatch, that is the first AI application to know if a luxury watch is real or fake, also with just one image. This is what the technology that we leverage, and the product that we also started gain traction, because with the TrustWatch we have customers from all over the world. Just to mention a nation, we have a lot of people from Uzbekistan. Thanks all.
Fantastic. Maybe just two questions that catch my attention. The first one is, I thought I'm an outsider in the NFT world. Is it dead or is it live?
It's already live.
It's still live?
Yes.
Still alive, okay. And the second one is, so now with your technology I can catch if I buy a fake Rolex, right? That should be the idea.
Correct.
What is the accuracy right now?
At the moment, it is 96.20% accuracy.
Okay. So what do you expect? Should be 100% at some point, or you still expect some?
It's impossible to get the 100% because there is a lag, a gap between the real watches and the fake watches, because not all fake watches made the real one, because there are only just a category of watches that can be trained on the data set.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So now we have as well well, we have actually Sprint X as well, right? Yeah. You? Yes. Come here. So we want you. Let me just give me 1 second. What is this? No.
Microsoft update. Okay, so I can talk without the slides.
Microsoft Evil.
I see here many of our hubbers, so they already know our reality. I'm Vito from Impact Bari. Is a co-working space in Fiera del Levante, a few steps from the sea. You can see it here.
No, we're back.
And our goal is to help innovators, entrepreneurs, startups to grow with their knowledge, networking, and more on. We have a 2,000 square meter space. We now are more than 400 hubbers in Impact Hub, and we are in the Impact Hub global community with more than 50,000 makers. Makers are Impact Hub people that make changes all over the world. I'm from SprintX, that is the certified incubator. It's a business unit within Impact Hub Bari. We have startups in incubation, foundings, innovation consultings, and we are very proud to share our results. So we have more than 115 projects supported and more than 6 million in foundings. So let's find out, come and find us. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a different batch, which is more about communities, as we said before, is all about communities and companies and entrepreneurship. Recently, we had a new communities in Bari, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but is focusing under 35 initially, I heard. Might change at some point, but initially is under 35 people around Bari. And so now we have a very little batch of two communities that will talk about, what they do within their communities. So please, Flavio from Stanford Bari.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank the promoters of the event for the opportunity they gave us to show you the association I represent. I'm Flavio Faccia, Administrative Officer at the University of Bari and Deputy Secretary of O80 Stanford Bari, which is a networking guild that recently born in our city.
It's not working? The remote?
No, probably no.
Yeah.
Okay, and in my speech I'll briefly display you the four strategic pillars of action that O80 Stanford Bari follows in order to achieve its public goals. First of all, we work in the community engagement system in order to enhance the community of young professionals, of course under 35 years old for now, that studies both in Bari, in Italy, and also abroad. Then we work about urban revitalization to promote requalification of the city. And in the next week, we'll have a service joint with other associations to clean the shallows of the Bari's harbor. We also are involved in education and training for mentoring opportunities and in order to strengthen the networking system between universities and professional realities. And we also are involved in entrepreneurial development to support the growth of our city and to help transform Bari into an attractive hub for the modern times. Okay, for any other question you can write us at the email address you see over there. I won't take any other precious time from you. I greet you and I wish you all a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Flavio. We have now the Google Developer Group on the stage. We have Michele, which I believe is the founder of the community, right?
Yeah, right.
Fantastic. Your stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I am Michele Antonio Trizio. I am in my daily life. I'm the CTO of Whiteverse, but I'm not here to talk about my company. I'm the founder of Google Developer Group Bari. We were born 12 years ago, and we organize event for learn together technology. We are officially recognized by Google. So our goal is to create a safe environment where each student or worker can grow. So we have 3 pillars: learn, share together, and collaborate. We are a global community because in Italy we are 30 communities all around Italy, and we are more than 1,000 communities all around the globe. We organize meetup, workshop, conferences. Our most important event is the DevFest. We made it in last November. We had more than 650 attendees. We talked about all the technology you can think, mobile or cloud, AI, front-end and back-end. And we are hosted in Politecnico University of Bari, in the same space of PugliaTechs. And that's it. I hope that you can join us and attend our events. We will have 2 events on generative AI on February, so keep an eye on our social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. So I guess we can conclude. Let me switch off. Do you want to close? Should I? Okay. So as I said, tonight was all about sharing what's happening in the region, sharing the communities that are local, sharing the firms that are building businesses locally and potentially selling globally. So that's a little bit in a nutshell, the story of PugliaTechs. So it's kind of, again, to put together a fragmented system. And we keep, building together. So the beauty of the community is that everyone could operate and add something to the community. We are all, for obvious reason, adding, someone is focused on marketing, someone is focused on building relationships and so on. So if someone wants to join and help us building, is more than welcome. And that's it. I'm not sure if I should add something else. Let me just wrap, who is building. Vincenzo is one of the guys, and then we have Francesco and Marco.
I mean, from my side, I really wanted to thank Aeroporti di Puglia, but especially Marco Pennelli for, setting up this location. And then I also want to thank Millionaire, both Stefano's here, as well as Matteo, who's following us and reposting us on LinkedIn. And I think this is the beginning of the new year, but I think having more startups, more organizations, even some scale-ups, like when I see my friend from Aulab, next time. So I think the more we connect and the more people come up on stage and say what they're doing, I think it's going to be a good year, I think. So I don't know, Francesco, if you want to say last few words, otherwise I think.
Likewise, yeah. Francesco here again, one of the community builders here with PugliaTechs. And as we were saying, it's really humbling to hear from colleagues that are sometimes not even on LinkedIn. I spoke to some of them and just mentioned about the events, and they said, yeah, we've been hearing what you guys have been doing, we'll be following you, and I think this is very humbling, and I think it's everyone's goal to spread the word around Puglia that is set to become a global hub, nothing less than any other big name that we hear, and we're all doing this little step every day, until more and more we can say that people hear about us without, in a very natural way as we're doing. So really welcome all of you to join this mission in this ecosystem along the other builders in this region. So thanks so much, and over to the other builders.
And one more thing, if you guys have any ideas on speakers and stuff that, Monica in the last row, she was saying, how about we organize an event at Loom University? We're like, sure, bring it on. And we're thinking about having an event dedicated to women in entrepreneurship. So we have a few already, but if you have proposals for speakers, topics, just come see us or write us, whatever, and we'll be happy to, brainstorm with you. Today we're brainstorming about, you probably know there's going to be a new Bari, New York direct flight. And so I'm thinking once, it's going to be, it could be an idea to get people that fly in straight from the US and join us in this room. And there's even a much bigger room behind that can host like 400 people. And, really make the connections also across the pond. So there's really a lot that we can do. So let's keep some networking happening right now, and let's connect. And yeah, thank you very much to everyone.